You wake to the gentle rocking of the narrowboat beneath you, the morning mist still clinging to the surface of the canal like gossamer threads. A light rain patters against the cabin windows, its rhythmic drumming harmonizing with the steady tick-tock of the brass chronometer on the wall. The timepiece shows 7:30, and this comforting mechanical rhythm has accompanied your journey through the waterways of rural England for the past fortnight. Today, however, something feels different about the familiar sound, even beneath the gentle percussion of raindrops on the boat's roof. Through the rain-streaked porthole, you glimpse the outline of a town emerging from the fog, its silhouette peculiar against the gray dawn sky. Spires and towers rise at impossible angles, their surfaces gleaming with what appears to be polished metal rather than traditional stone or brick. You push open the cabin door and step onto the deck, your bare feet meeting the cool, damp wood as droplets of rain kiss your face, and you peer ahead through the dissipating mist. The canal curves gently to the right, and as your boat follows the waterway's natural course, the town reveals itself in all its extraordinary glory. Buildings of brass and copper stretch along both banks, their rain-slicked walls adorned with enormous gears and cogs that rotate slowly in the morning air. Steam rises from countless chimneys, not the black smoke of coal fires, but clean white vapor that mingles with the falling rain and catches the early light, transforming both moisture and mist into rainbow prisms. Your boat seems to navigate itself now, drawn by some invisible current towards the town's heart. The tiller responds to your touch, but you sense that the vessel knows exactly where it wishes to go. Along the canal banks, you observe mechanical figures tending to gardens where flowers bloom in perfect synchronization, their petals opening and closing in measured intervals, despite the gentle rain that beads on their metallic surfaces. These gardeners move with jerky, precise movements, their brass limbs catching the strengthening sunlight as they work, seemingly unaffected by the moisture that would rust ordinary metal. The waterway widens as you approach what appears to be the town's central harbor. Mooring posts rise from the water, each one topped with a small clockwork mechanism that ticks and whirs as your boat draws near. You notice that every sound in this place follows a pattern, a grand symphony of mechanical precision that seems to pulse with the very heartbeat of the town itself. As you secure your mooring rope to one of the posts, you observe other boats bobbing gently in the harbor. Some appear to be conventional narrowboats like your own, though their hulls bear strange modifications. Brass fittings that serve no obvious purpose, portholes that seem to observe your movements, and chimneys that emit not smoke, but musical notes that harmonize with the town's ambient sounds. You step onto the cobblestone quay and immediately notice that the stones beneath your feet are not ordinary cobbles, but smooth brass discs, each one inscribed with intricate patterns that seem to shift and change as you walk across them. The sensation is oddly pleasant, as if the ground itself is alive and responding to your presence. Before you stretches the town's main thoroughfare, a wide boulevard lined with shops and houses that defy conventional architecture. Every building appears to be part of some vast clockwork mechanism, with visible gears and springs integrated into their very structure. Windows open and close in rhythmic patterns. Doors swing wide to welcome visitors before closing again moments later, and weather vanes atop every roof spin in complex patterns that seem to follow no earthly wind. You begin to walk along the boulevard, your footsteps adding to the symphony of mechanical sounds that fills the air. The rain has stopped now, leaving the brass cobblestones gleaming like mirrors beneath your feet. Each step produces a different musical note, creating a melody that weaves seamlessly into the town's greater composition. The shops you pass display wares that are both familiar and strange. A bakery where loaves of bread rise and fall in perfect timing, their crusts browning in synchronized waves as mechanical ovens open and close with clockwork precision. The scent of fresh bread mingles with the metallic tang of brass and the lingering freshness of rain. A florist's establishment catches your attention next, its window display a marvel of automated artistry. Bouquets arrange themselves according to some invisible choreography, stems rotating and petals unfurling in patterns that seem to follow mathematical principles rather than natural growth. Mechanical butterflies, their wings fashioned from delicate copper mesh, flutter between the flowers in predetermined flight paths, their gentle humming adding another layer to the town's acoustic tapestry. Further along, you discover a confectionery, where sugar sculptures mold themselves into intricate shapes, only to dissolve and reform in an endless cycle of sweet creation. The mechanical confectioner, a figure of polished brass wearing a pristine white apron, works with movements so fluid and precise that you wonder if there might be some human consciousness within the mechanical form. Its hands never pause, never hesitate, as it crafts delicacies that exist for mere moments before transforming into something entirely new. And then there is the clockmaker's shop, where hundreds of timepieces should tick in perfect unison. But today something is terribly wrong. It is at this establishment that you first notice something amiss. Unlike every other shop along the boulevard, this one stands silent. The great clock that should crown its roof has stopped, its hands frozen at 23 minutes past 11. The shop's windows, which should open and close in rhythm with the town's heartbeat, remain stubbornly shut. Even the brass nameplate above the door has tarnished, its once bright surface now dull and lifeless, as if the very life force of the place has begun to ebb away. You pause before the shop, studying its facade more carefully. Where other buildings pulse with mechanical vitality, this one seems to hold its breath. The decorative gears that should rotate slowly in their housings have ceased their eternal dance, and the brass pipes that should carry the town's temporal energy stand cold and still. Even the air around the shop feels different, heavy with an oppressive silence that seems to push against the harmonious sounds emanating from the rest of the town. You approach the shop cautiously, your hand reaching for the door handle. The metal is cold to the touch, lacking the warmth that seems to emanate from every other brass surface in the town. As you push the door open, a discordant note sounds, jarring against the harmonious background music of the Clockwork settlement. Inside, the shop is a maze of workbenches, each one cluttered with the components of countless timepieces. Gears lie scattered across wooden surfaces, their surfaces dulled by a fine layer of dust that seems impossible in this otherwise pristine town. Clock faces stare down from the walls like unblinking eyes, their hands pointing to different times, creating a sense of temporal chaos that makes your head spin. At the far end of the shop, you discover a workbench that appears to have been abandoned mid-task. A partially assembled clock lies open, its internal mechanism exposed like the organs of some mechanical creature. Tools are scattered around it, as if their user had suddenly vanished while working. A leather-bound journal lies open beside the clock, its pages filled with detailed diagrams and notes written in a spidery hand. You lean closer to examine the journal, and the words seem to swim before your eyes, as if written in some shifting script. The ink appears to move across the page, rearranging itself into different languages and symbols before settling into a form you can understand. Gradually, the text resolves into readable form, and you discover that it belongs to one Master Cornelius Gearwright, the town's chief clockmaker. His handwriting is precise, yet urgent. Each letter formed with the same mechanical precision that governs the town itself. The journal chronicles months of observations, documenting subtle changes in the town's temporal harmony that only a master craftsman would notice. Early entries speak of minor discrepancies, a shop door that hesitated for a fraction of a second before opening, a mechanical bird that sang its song a beat too early, a fountain that missed a single pulse in its eternal dance. Gearwright had initially dismissed these as mere curiosities, but as time passed, the anomalies had multiplied and grown more pronounced. The final entry, dated 3 days ago, speaks of a growing discord in the town's temporal harmony. Gearwright had noticed that certain mechanisms were beginning to fall out of sync, threatening the delicate balance that kept the entire settlement functioning. His words convey a sense of mounting desperation as he describes failed attempts to trace the source of the disturbance, each investigation leading him deeper into the mystery of what he termed the Great Unwinding. The journal describes Gearwright's growing concern about what he termed the Great Unwinding, a phenomenon that seemed to be affecting the town's master clock, a massive timepiece located somewhere in the settlement's heart. According to his notes, this master clock was responsible for coordinating every mechanical system in the town, from the opening and closing of shop doors to the blooming of flowers in the gardens. If it were to fail completely, the entire town would cease to function. You close the journal and slip it into your coat pocket, sensing that it may prove crucial to understanding what has happened here. As you prepare to leave the shop, you notice a small brass key hanging from a hook beside the door. Its surface is inscribed with the same shifting patterns you observed on the cobblestones, and it feels warm to the touch, unlike everything else in the abandoned shop. Stepping back onto the boulevard, you continue your exploration of the town, the journal's contents weighing heavily on your mind. The mechanical inhabitants you encounter seem unaware of any problem, continuing their prescribed routines with clockwork precision. A brass postman delivers letters to houses whose doors open to receive them before closing again. A mechanical street sweeper follows its eternal circuit, its brushes moving in perfect arcs to collect debris that somehow never seems to accumulate. Yet you begin to notice subtle signs of the discord that Gearwright had written about. A flower in one of the automated gardens blooms a fraction of a second too late, disrupting the perfect choreography of its companions. A shop door hesitates before opening, creating a momentary pause in the town's rhythm. These tiny imperfections seem to be spreading, like cracks in a perfectly tuned instrument. Following the main boulevard, you eventually arrive at the town's central square, dominated by a magnificent fountain whose waters dance in time with the surrounding mechanical symphony. The fountain itself is a marvel of engineering, with multiple tiers of brass basins from which water flows in complex patterns. Jets of water rise and fall in mathematical sequences, creating temporary sculptures that exist for mere seconds before dissolving into the next formation. The sound of falling water provides a liquid counterpoint to the mechanical rhythms that surround it. The fountain's centerpiece is a towering clock tower, its face easily 20 feet in diameter, with hands that move in stately progression around numerals crafted from polished brass. Each numeral is a work of art in itself, incorporating miniature gears and mechanisms that rotate slowly as the great hands pass over them. The tower's surface is covered in intricate relief work, depicting the history of timekeeping, from ancient sundials to the most sophisticated mechanical chronometers. This, you realize, must be the master clock that Gearwright wrote about in his journal. The tower rises at least 100 feet into the air, its brass surface gleaming despite the recent rain. Along its length, you can see smaller clock faces marking different time zones, though what zones they represent remains a mystery. Some seem to run backwards, others tick at different speeds, creating a complex temporal symphony that somehow maintains perfect harmony with the town's mechanical heartbeat. As you circle the fountain, studying the tower from different angles, you notice that the great clock's minute hand trembles slightly as it moves. The tremor is barely perceptible, but in a town where every movement is precisely calibrated, even the slightest irregularity stands out like a discord in a perfect chord. The brass key in your pocket grows warmer, and you sense that it somehow connects to the mystery you are trying to unravel. At the base of the clock tower, you discover a small brass door, its surface inscribed with the same shifting patterns as the key. The door has no visible handle or lock, but as you approach with the key in your hand, a small keyhole appears in the metal surface, its edges glowing with a soft, warm light. You insert the key and turn it, hearing the satisfying click of tumblers falling into place. The door swings open to reveal a narrow spiral staircase that winds upward into the tower's interior. The walls are lined with brass pipes and cables, all humming with mechanical energy. As you climb, the sounds of the town's Clockwork symphony grow more pronounced, as if you are approaching the very heart of the mechanism that keeps this extraordinary place alive. The staircase terminates at a circular chamber filled with the most complex mechanical apparatus you have ever witnessed. Gears the size of cartwheels turn slowly in their housings, connected by chains and cables to countless smaller mechanisms. The air thrums with power, and you can feel the pulse of the great machine through the soles of your feet. At the center of this mechanical marvel stands a figure in a brass coat, motionless before a massive control panel. As you approach, you realize that this is not a mechanical automaton like the town's other inhabitants, but a human being, though one who appears to be in some form of temporal suspension. The figure's eyes are closed, and their breathing is so slow as to be almost imperceptible. This must be Master Gearwright himself, though how he came to be in this state remains a mystery. His hands rest on the control panel, and you can see that he had been making adjustments to the master clock's mechanism when whatever happened to him occurred. The panel before him is covered with dials, switches, and gauges, each one monitoring a different aspect of the town's temporal harmony. You study the control panel, trying to understand the purpose of each instrument. The journal in your pocket grows warm against your chest, and when you withdraw it, you find that new text has appeared on its pages, as if responding to your presence in this chamber. The writing describes the proper calibration of the master clock, explaining how each dial and switch affects the town's synchronized life. According to the journal's newly appeared instructions, the master clock operates on a principle of temporal resonance, where every mechanism in the town is tuned to vibrate in harmony with the central timepiece. When this harmony is disrupted, the entire system begins to decay, starting with subtle timing errors and eventually leading to complete mechanical failure. The journal explains that Gearwright had discovered a growing temporal instability in the system, caused by the accumulation of tiny timing errors over many years. To correct this, he had attempted to perform a delicate recalibration of the master clock, but the process had somehow trapped him in a temporal loop, suspending him between one moment and the next. You examine the control panel more closely, noting that several of the dials are positioned incorrectly according to the journal's diagrams. The master clock's minute hand continues to tremble as it moves, and you can hear discordant notes beginning to creep into the town's mechanical symphony. Time is running out, and if the system is not corrected soon, the entire town will cease to function. Following the journal's instructions, you begin to make the necessary adjustments to the control panel. Each dial you turn sends vibrations through the tower's structure, and you can hear the town's rhythm beginning to stabilize. The process is delicate work, requiring precise timing and careful attention to the interaction between different mechanical systems. As you work, you notice that Master Gearwright's breathing is becoming more regular, and color is returning to his face. The temporal suspension that has held him is beginning to weaken as the master clock's harmony is restored. You continue your adjustments, fine-tuning the system until the trembling in the great clock's hands finally ceases. The moment the master clock achieves perfect synchronization, the chamber fills with a warm golden light. Master Gearwright opens his eyes and takes a deep breath, as if awakening from a long sleep. He looks at you with gratitude and wonder, though neither of you speaks. Words seem unnecessary in this moment of triumph over temporal chaos. Together, you and Gearwright descend the spiral staircase and emerge into the town square. The fountain's waters dance more beautifully than ever, and the mechanical symphony that fills the air has achieved a new level of perfection. The flowers in the automated gardens bloom in flawless synchronization, and every door and window in the town opens and closes with precision timing. You walk with gear right through the streets of the Clockwork town, observing the renewed harmony that flows through every mechanical system. The townspeople, both human and mechanical, go about their daily routines with a sense of contentment and purpose that had been lacking before. The temporal discord has been resolved, and the town's unique way of life has been preserved. As evening approaches, you find yourself back at the harbor where your narrowboat waits. The mechanical figures that tend the moorings work with renewed efficiency, and the other boats in the harbor bob gently in perfect rhythm with the town's heartbeat. You prepare to continue your journey along the canal, but you know that the memory of this extraordinary place will stay with you forever. Master Gearwright accompanies you to your boat, and though you still exchange no words, you understand that your assistance has been invaluable. He presents you with a small brass compass, its face inscribed with the same shifting patterns you have observed throughout the town. The compass needle points not to magnetic north, but to true temporal harmony, a gift that will serve you well in whatever adventures lie ahead. As you untie your mooring rope and push off from the quay, you take one last look at the Clockwork town. The buildings gleam in the setting sun, their brass surfaces reflecting the golden light in countless tiny mirrors. The great clock tower stands proud at the settlement's heart, its hands moving in perfect synchronization with the rhythm of life itself. Your narrowboat glides away from the harbor, following the canal as it curves between the mechanical gardens and past the brass-walled buildings. The town's symphony grows fainter as you travel, but its harmonious notes continue to resonate in your memory. You know that few people will ever witness what you have seen today, and fewer still will understand the delicate balance that keeps such a place alive. The mist begins to rise from the canal again as night falls, gradually obscuring the Clockwork town behind you. When you look back one final time, you can see only the warm glow of its lights through the vapor, like stars reflected in still water. The town has returned to its timeless existence, its mechanical heart beating steadily through the night. You settle into your boat's cabin, the brass compass resting on the table beside your bunk. Outside, the canal continues its ancient course through the English countryside, carrying you toward whatever mysteries and adventures await downstream. The gentle rocking of the boat lulls you toward sleep, and the last thing you hear before consciousness fades is the distant sound of clockwork harmony, a reminder of the extraordinary day you have just experienced. In your dreams, you return to the Clockwork town, walking again through its brass-paved streets and listening to its mechanical symphony. You see Master Gearwright at his workbench, creating new timepieces that will help maintain the town's temporal harmony. You watch the automated gardens bloom in perfect synchronization and observe the mechanical inhabitants going about their eternal routines with clockwork precision. When you wake the next morning, you find that your boat has traveled many miles downstream during the night. The Clockwork town is far behind you now, hidden once again in the mists of the English waterways. But the brass compass still rests on your table, its needle pointing steadily toward true temporal harmony, a tangible reminder that your adventure was not merely a dream. You examine the compass more closely in the morning light, marveling at the intricate craftsmanship of its construction. The shifting patterns on its face seem to tell the story of your encounter with the Clockwork town, a tale of temporal discord overcome through courage and determination. You know that this compass will guide you to other extraordinary places, other mysteries waiting to be solved along the quiet waterways of England. As your narrowboat continues its journey, you reflect on the lessons learned in the Clockwork town. You have discovered that even the most perfectly ordered systems can fall into discord without proper maintenance and care. You have seen how a single individual's dedication can preserve an entire way of life, and how sometimes the most important work is done in silence, without recognition or reward. The canal stretches ahead of you, its dark waters reflecting the sky like a mirror. Somewhere beyond the next bend, new adventures await, new mysteries to solve, new wonders to discover. The Clockwork Town has taught you that the world is far more extraordinary than most people imagine, full of hidden marvels that reveal themselves only to those who approach with open hearts and curious minds. Your boat glides steadily forward, carrying you toward whatever destiny awaits along the waterways of England. The brass compass points the way, its needle unwavering in its direction toward true temporal harmony. And in the distance, almost too faint to hear, you can still detect the echo of the Clockwork Town's mechanical symphony, a reminder that some mysteries, once solved, continue to resonate through time itself. Sweet dreams. Good night.